Can you see the live?
I can see
Okay,
you. Mhm.
cool. Okay, and Ellie, um, yeah, now I think we are on. Sorry about the technical issues. And good morning, good evening, depends where you are. I'm Irene Wong. I have been a poem ballroom dancer for 18 years, also the owner for Everything Ballroom Store. Our goal is to help ballroom dancers have a wonderful journey. If you like what we're doing, please give us thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Our mind is so important to us, right? So we keep talking about as we age, dementia has been a topic. Just last night, my husband has talking about what we should do when he couldn't recognize me anymore. So this topic has in all of our mind. And there's a lot of talk about ballroom dancing on our mind effects. How does that work? And what can we do? So today I'm so excited to have Maria Hansen return to be our guest again to talk just about that, her mind study. Many of us already know about Maria as she was seven-time U.S. National Professional Ballroom finalist, NDCA chairman of judge and adjudicators, and lead researchers at Dance Vision Foundation and competitor organizers, and many more. In our last interview, we talked about how ballroom dancing helped, especially the elderly, with the ballroom dancing, the Dance Vision Foundations, and they are looking for teachers and volunteers to help. Please check out our previous episode on that topic. But today we'll talk about the mind. Without further ado, let's welcome Maria. Thank you joining us.
Hi, Irene. How are you?
Good, good, good. Welcome back to talking with us with your share with us your experience.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here again.
So, we talking about the mind study, and you are the lead researchers for the Dance Vision Foundation. What the study is about? What did you guys do?
Well, that's a big question because there's so much information out there now. And as you were doing the introduction and talking about your husband and there's a lot of fear these days with the older generation, even the younger generation. I mean, I'm afraid for my mom actually, and kind of seeing some of the older people going through what they're going through. And I actually, right as you were talking, I reached down and I grabbed some facts that I had forgotten about, but they were right here. So I actually wanted to share that because Alzheimer's and dementia is an epidemic. More than 6 million older adults in the US suffer from Alzheimer's and 42 million internationally. They're anticipating over 100 million by the year 2050. So that's a huge increase. 14 million older adults suffer from mild cognitive impairment. An estimated 16% of people with mild cognitive impairment develop dementia within a year. 80% will develop it within 6 years. And Alzheimer's is the fifth leading cause of death, barring any medical breakthroughs, and it will continue to rise. So it definitely is something that is on a lot of people's minds. I When Wayne approached me to do this, I didn't know anything about this, right? I knew dancing was good for us, and I knew that dancing is considered the best activity and the most effective activity that we can do for our brain health. But the last year and a half, I've been learning more and more about it, and it's fascinating. So, I mean, ask me whatever you can think of. I'll try to answer the best I can. But it's a huge subject, so it's like I just wanted to find out where you wanted to go with this.
Yeah, so I want to focus on you mentioned about dancing helping our
Mhm.
minds how and and what can we do you know uh based on the fact everybody is need to be paying attention, right? So how affect the dancing related to our brain and mind in
Okay.
your study, and what can we do to prevent it? Or can it be preventable? And what should we do in that direction?
Okay. So I'm going to start with music. Music, I
Mm.
think, is the biggest key when it comes to how dancing is so effective for brain health. Music lights up almost every region of the brain. Um, Also, music memories are stored in a different part of the brain than regular memories. And it's the part of the brain that gets affected by Alzheimer's last, which is very interesting to me. Um, they use music therapy in nursing home and memory care centers all over the world now, because in many instances, it's the best way to reach people who are suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. And I think we've all actually experienced this too, right? Maybe a song comes on that you haven't heard in decades, and magically you just start singing. It's like you know all of the words to the song. So this is actually, I think, a really, really important thing to understand when we talk about how dancing affects the brain. When we put movement to the music, we start developing like these new neural pathways, right? So oftentimes when there's damage in the brain, it doesn't mean that the brain is dead. It's just it's broken, right? It's lost the ability to be able to develop these pathways. So music can help turn things on in the brain. Um, when we put movement to it, like I mentioned, that even activates it more. There is one of the things that I think actually I need to explain too is there's something called neuroplasticity. So that's basically the ability for our brain to continue to grow, right? Years ago, doctors, neurologists thought that once you reach a certain age, I think it's like 3, you have all the brain cells you're going to have, and then you just have to make sure you protect them. But it's not really true. We actually continue making brain cells throughout our lifetime. So doing things, exercise especially, right? We can't get away from how important exercise is for us. And that's the other thing with dancing is it's great exercise. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But when we exercise, we release a compound in the brain called BDNF, which stands for brain derived neurotrophic factor. Sometimes I get all mixed up with the pronunciation. But when we release the BDNF, that's like the miracle grow for brain cells. So just like if you were to have a healthy plant, right? You have to fertilize that plant. You have to feed that plant. We have to do the same thing with our brain cells. In my class, I just finished teaching today. I have over 50 seniors in my Monday class now. And they always wear their little Fitbit or their Apple Watch. And so we always look to see how many steps they get. In my class, they get 3,000 steps almost every time. So they're getting some great exercise with dancing. The best thing about dancing is we don't feel like we're exercising because we're just having fun.
I love what you say because I keep telling people I hate exercise.
Mhm,
I don't like walking, running, and lifting weights. I don't, but I love dancing, right? That
mhm.
is the things that you don't feel like exercise. You feel like fun, you enjoy the music, you move your body, and that is so important, at least to me.
Mhm.
When I talk to people, is that the people say, "Are you exercising?" Not really, but I dance. But it is, yes, I should say yes, but through dancing. So this
Yeah.
is a very important element for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. And I think sometimes also we have to realize that as we get older, we can't really exercise quite with the same intensity that we did when we were younger, right? We have to be a little kinder to our bodies. So dancing is a great way to just get moving, right? Sometimes stretching a little bit. Um, so anyway, I don't think there's really a much better way to exercise than dancing.
I like that too. You talked about, uh, grow our mind. So my
Mhm.
husband and I, he doesn't like dancing. I love dancing, right? So how you can use my husband example, is that encourage people to look at this more seriously. But he's a golfer. He liked kind of exercise, but not like any of the dancing, right? So
Hmm.
in their minds, they really have bias in the gay guy thing. I don't think I can dance, and I don't like dancing, and I actually hate dancing. I'm not show off to people.
Yeah.
How do you use that brain study and trying to influence, but they do care about their brain, right? Influence them to be get into, I call the good side.
Well, I think it's really important to understand that any exercise is good for us, right? So golfing is great, right? If you go running or whatever you're doing, walking. The difference with dancing is that we're activating almost every region of the brain as we're exercising, right? You don't really do that so much with the other activities that you do. So I think that's really one of the main reasons that they consider dancing to be the number one activity to do, because it's a very full activity that you can do for the brain.
My husband's very scientific. When you talking about a comparison, he's just
Hmm.
say, "What do you mean? You're not activate the full brain, but when dancing, you activate the full brain. What do
Okay.
you mean by that? Deep
Yeah.
down on that, dive in on that area."
There's something called dual tasking, right? That's actually really important to talk about too. So, dual tasking activities is really what triggers the brain to start to heal itself. So, when I was going through one of the brain fitness courses that I took, we have a lot of different ways that we can exercise, right? So, we have physical exercise, which is important to release the BDNF that I was talking about before. We also have cognitive exercises. So when people do things like crossword puzzles, or they play Sudoku, those are great things to do also. But the thing that dancing does is this activity called dual tasking. So dual tasking specifically means that you're doing a physical activity at the same time as a mental activity. So of course we do that in dancing, right? We're listening to music. We're having to find the beat of the music. We're communicating each other through touch. We can talk while we're moving. We're watching, right? We're using all of our senses. That's the other thing, actually. I told you this is a big subject. There's so much that goes into this. Um, so dual tasking specifically is those two things. That's different than multitasking, right? Multitasking just means you're doing a bunch of things all at once. But when you specifically put together a physical task and a cognitive task at the same time, that's where the magic happens in the brain.
Very important portion of that, because my husband said I can multitask, right? But
Multitask
he said
isn't
the brain,
necessarily,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. The brain is more sequential than you put things together. And then he never thought, he said, it can't do two things in together, but you talking about a do tasking,
Hmm.
which particular address his thing. So, that's can we dive in a little bit on that, how the brain work? What is the difference compared to, if
Hmm.
he doing exercise, and he's running on the treadmill,
Hmm.
he also listen to music or listen
Hmm.
to podcast. Will that
Right.
different than I am doing the dancing with the music? Is it any difference on that?
Yes. So still good, right? If he's on the treadmill, even if you're on the treadmill and you're reading a book or you're playing a puzzle, you're dual tasking. So you're doing that. The difference with dancing, though, is we're actually activating all of our senses while we're moving as well. Okay, so usually when we think about our senses, most people are aware of five, right? So we have sight, we see people, we hear, we smell, we touch, and we taste. Those are our five main senses. But we actually have three more. One is proprioception. So proprioception is the ability of us being able to tell where we are in space. So as we're moving through space, we're able to tell where our arms are, where our legs are, where our head is, right? We do a lot of this in dancing when we're trying to fix our posture, right? Keep our head in some certain place, keep the frame, our arms, right? Where are we moving our legs? So we're definitely very focused on proprioception. We have another sense called interoception. That's how we feel on the inside. So when we think about activating our core, for instance, right? You're trying to activate muscles, maybe you're trying to stretch, you're taking a breath, right? So that's what we mean by interoceptions, being able to sense yourself inside. And we also have balancing, right? So we're trying to balance at the same time. Now, when we dance, right, when we think about this, we're on a regular basis activating 6 of those senses at the same time. We have to see, we have to look where we're going. We hear, right? We touch. If we're talking about partner dancing, we're touching. Um, we're I can't really say that we use smell and taste so much, but I mean, you could, right? Maybe you smell the perfume or, something else from your partner. Um, you could be chewing gum while you're dancing, so maybe you do have a taste as well, but I wouldn't really say that we're using that on a regular basis. So what did I leave out? We have the sight, the hearing, touching. What am I?
Situations and is it the one
Yeah,
the
I'm thinking of the 5 main ones first, right? So we see our partner, we hear the music or our partner, we're touching our partner. Oh, and then we have this. Okay, so I didn't leave anything out. But you also use proprioception, we use interoception, and we balance. You're not going to use all of those when you're running on the treadmill and reading a book.
those are very good explanation. Now I can talk to my husband about and get him started at least to consider it, right?
Mhm.
So, what is it particular dancing? You're talking about the touching the partner dancing, which is
Mhm.
the ballroom dancing that we
Yes.
talked about, versus just listen to music, move by yourself, you know, how it's different, what
Mhm.
you recommend us to do.
I think all dancing is good. The thing that I learned in my studies was ballroom dancing, right? When we add touch to that is so effective. Just the act of touching another person activates the brain, right? It already starts to activate the neural pathways to start to find its way around damaged areas. But there was a study also that was done called the slowest wave, and what they found in that study, because they put the caps, right, on the dancers with the electrodes to measure the brain waves. And what they found is even though all of the dancers were on their own dancing solo, the brain waves still started to match with one another. So there was still a sense of togetherness. So I don't think that that's quite as effective as touching, but I think that there is still a lot of benefit when you're in a group environment, especially in dancing. So I think it's all great. Any kind of dancing is really good. But one thing that ballroom dancing does specifically that not really the other type of dancing does is the touch.
That's very important. So I asked you earlier on how the study worked. It sounds like you didn't mention that, but now I catching it is actually that the physical study of group of people, and then with the mind, you
Mhm.
know, checking on the mind way and see the effect, right?
Yes.
So I didn't get that. This is
Mhm.
really serious study. Can you give tin a bit summary on that study, and then we
Mhm.
can summarize it and then let people ask their question?
So that study was called the slowest wave, and it was done out of Rockefeller Center. So
So you
yeah,
have
they
volunteers coming in and they test it.
it was actually a group of dancers, right, that had danced together, so they would perform together, and they put the electrodes on their head and studied what they were doing. They studied the brain waves. through that. And that's where they found it's just some really interesting things out of that study, right? The fact of touch, when they did touch someone, that they could see just the act of that would already spur the brain to start to develop new pathways. Um, and also finding that the brain waves started to match even when they weren't touching. I think that's actually a really interesting um, thing that they found from there too.
That's wonderful. Seems like that you have learned so much. And, I will, that helped me address, and I love dancing. I feel so good that I'm in it already, but I need to get my husband and many other people on this beautiful journey. So, without further ado, do you want to summarize what your study is and what recommendation to to people, and then we open um, to our audience for
I
questions?
mean, there's so many studies out there. You can just Google it on face or on the internet and find study after study after study after study. Um, I don't really think that I have said anything that's not out there already that you can just Google yourself. Um, Dancing is the number one activity you can do. I've had like these miraculous things happen in my class that sometimes I still can't even believe some of the things that have happened. Just as one quick little example, we had classes in a Seattle facility, and there was a lady there who had had a stroke, and she lost her ability to speak with clarity, right? She would try to talk, but nothing would really come out that anyone could understand. But there was a song that they played and it touched her. She started singing the words clear as day. It's like all of a sudden people could actually understand what she was saying because she was singing. But see, this is what I think is the power of music and moving to music can do. That's just one example. I have several, but I know that we're kind of on limited time too. So,
Yeah, this is good. I feel story touches people more. If you want to share one more story is okay, then we can
okay.
open up for audience.
So I had one of the first classes that I did. Um, I this lady came in, right? She was in a wheelchair, and the class was held at an assisted living place, and the physical therapist was bringing people in for the class. There was this one particular lady who I couldn't really get through to her at all. She was sitting in a wheelchair and just very small is really the best way I can describe her. And so she wouldn't communicate back. It was like she didn't even hear me. So I didn't know what was going to happen with her. So she's seated in front of me. There's all these people there, but she happened to be right in front. And I start the music, and it was to Sugar Sugar by the Archies, right? I use generational music with my seniors because they know these songs. So I started the warm up, and all of a sudden, about a third of the way through the song, she just looked up and she finally made eye contact with me, right? Then she started bouncing up and down in her chair. Then she started copying my arms, and then she just broke out in this smile. And I always say her smile, it could have lit up New York. I mean, I was sitting there, I almost wanted to start crying when I was watching her because
Oh,
it was just amazing. So she goes through the class and she's following me now, and she's very animated at this point. But then about halfway through the class, she wanted to stand up and dance. So the physical therapist brought over a ballet bar and she had to be helped up to hold on to the bar. And now she's trying to move her legs. And I taught the class for 45 minutes. I tried to stop and she wouldn't let me. So I kept going. And finally, I got to a point where I really needed to stop. And she didn't want to leave. She loved it so much. And from what I was told from then on, right, as she would come to the class, because this was a class I had introduced in Seattle, but I wasn't teaching on an ongoing basis. One of my students teaches that class. And she was always looking forward to that class, and her family actually was noticed a big difference in her. So I always say that she's people like her that's my why. Why am I doing this? That's why. It's just to be able to help people like that, to add something to their lives. And there's just such a purpose behind it. And being a dance teacher, I always knew dancing was good for us, but I never really saw something that profound and so fast. So that's why I do what I do.
I hear this story. I every single time I tear my eyes, right? So it's touched me, and then that's what I talk to you about. I want to be participating in your program and talking about have more volunteer and join the program and then help seniors, help people.
Mhm.
So do check in and do talk to Maria if you are willing to do these amazing help with people for the dancers and then join the group.
Yeah, and
Okay,
I'll be
thank
at
you so
Ohio. Oh, I'll be at Ohio Star Ball next week, or is it next week? Yeah. No, not next week, the
much.
week after that. I'll be in
The
Ohio.
18th.
And if anyone who's watching has any questions, feel free to come up to me. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Thank you, thank you. So
Thank
now
you.
we open for audience, and I know, Ellie, Sandy, you have a questions?
Yeah, Sandy Marino said that thank you for all you do. Is this program available in other areas of the country?
We are actually expanding. We opened more classes in Seattle. We have classes in Orange County, and I now have classes also in San Diego at an amazing place. But we are actually looking at opening in Ohio as well. I have several people who have gone through my training class, so we're just trying to get it all kind of going. So yeah, we do have plans to expand. And I know that Sandy's in Columbus, so hopefully we'll have some classes there soon.
Yeah, and then Maria, you and I talked about we maybe you were gonna build how to train the trainer kind of class. So
Mhm.
hopefully more and more people can enjoy it and
Yeah.
this kind of work together. Great. Answer. Okay, so it seems that's all of the questions. Thank you so much. We're going to post the link, Maria, on the dance visions and any of the studies that you have questioned to. We can list it for Maria to share with us. And I'm hoping more and more people see the benefit of ballroom dancing and join us and keep dancing and live a beautiful life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Irene.